In this video, we're going to be looking at graphing parabolas. If our parabola has a vertical axis of symmetry, it will have equation y equals a times the quantity x minus h squared plus k. Here, if a is greater than 0, our parabola opens upward, and if a is less than 0, our parabola opens downward. If it has a horizontal axis of symmetry, our equation changes to x equals a times the quantity y minus k squared plus h. And if a is greater than 0, it opens to the right, and if a is less than 0, it opens to the left. So let's look at an example. Here we have negative 2x squared plus 8x minus y minus 6 equals 0. So the first thing we want to do is isolate the variable that isn't squared. So if we have negative 2x squared plus 8x minus y minus 6 equals 0, here we can see that our x is squared, but our y is not. So I'm going to add y to both sides. And I'm going to get y equals negative 2x squared plus 8x minus 6. Next, I want to factor and complete the square. As we saw in our forms above, a was outside of our squared term, and our variable inside the squared term had a coefficient of 1. So we want y equals, the number in front of our x squared term needs to go away, so we're going to pull that out. Negative 2 times x squared minus 4x minus 6. Next, we want to complete the square. So we have y equals negative 2 times x squared minus 4x, and then we're going to have plus some number. The way we find this number is we want to take 1/2 of our b term, so negative 4, which gives us negative 2, and then we're going to square that. So negative 2 squared, it gives us 4. So here, we see that we've subtracted a total of 8 from this equation because we have negative 2 times positive 4. So we need to add 8 back in to keep things balanced. And then we still have our minus 6. So then we have y equals negative 2 times x minus 2 squared plus 2. So that leads us to our third step. Here, we want to identify h and k. And then we want to find other points. So we know that our equation is y equals a times x minus h squared plus k. And we have y equals negative 2 times x minus 2 squared plus 2. So that tells me that my h is 2 and my k is 2. So my vertex, which is h comma k, is going to be equal to 2 comma 2. Next, we want to find other points, and I'm going to do this by creating a table. So the first point I want to look at is my vertex, and then I want to pick points on, or x values on either side that are equidistant from the x value of my vertex. So here I'm going to pick 1 and 3 because they're each 1 away from 2. And what happens then is, because they're equidistant from the vertex, their y values will be the same because parabolas are symmetrical. And then I'm going to pick 0 and 4. because they're each 2 away from my vertex. So let's find our other points. So we have -2 times x is going to be 1 for our first one. So we have 1 minus 2 squared plus 2. And that gives us -2 times -1 squared plus 2. So that's going to be -2 plus 2, which is 0. So for 1 and also for 3, we'll get 0 for our y. And then let's look at what happens if we plug 0 in. So we have -2 times 0 minus 2 squared plus 2. So we get -2 times 4 plus 2. So -8 plus 2 gives us -6. So now that means we have -6 here and -6 here. So let's look at graphing this. If you're graphing this on paper, you will need all of these points. But to graph on Alex, you only need the direction it opens, the vertex, and 1 point. Here we can see that our A is negative. So this is going to open downward. So let's graph this. Our vertex was the point 2, 2. It opens down, and we're going to place another point. So I'm going to place a point at 1, 0. And there's the graph of our parabola.